Looks like Virginia Democrats can't fit us into their schedule. Life goes on. Chris Graham here, Augusta Free Press. So people who read Augusta Free Press for sports coverage already kind of know this, but I got the label fringe media last year from a mainstream sports writer because of something that I was writing about Tony Bennett, the then UVA basketball coach. After doing a lot of work behind the scenes, including a lot public records requests and things of that nature, we came to the determination in May of last year, 2024, that looked like Coach Bennett was getting ready to retire. A few weeks later, one of these mainstream guys writes, fringe media guy says this, but he's not going to retire. A few months later, Tony Bennett retired. So that's how things like that go. Um, I have embraced the label fringe media. I think that's what you do. You disarm people who try to diminish you by make their attempts and insults into a big joke to point out the absurdity. I use it on a lot of things. I have a T-shirt. I'm not wearing it right now, but I've got a T-shirt, couple T-shirts actually that I wear that point out the fringe media thing. It's on the label on the website for me in my bio section. If you ever look at that. What I want to do here today is tell you that it's not just the sports people who treat us that way, treat me that way. The self-appointed gatekeepers in the Virginia news media and the Democratic Party of Virginia keep signaling to us that they see us as oddballs, which, I mean, it's fine. Such is life. We don't come with an official blessing, which is by design. I've been fighting that battle since a guy who won a Pulitzer a few years ago and then ended up being a part-time writer for an ad shopper said I was God, basically doing journalism in my bedroom. That was 20 years ago. I'm still in the business, and that guy's not. Um, the guy who called me fringe media ended up being out of work for a while there too. It's funny how that works. Um, as things work out, we tried a few years ago to join the Virginia Press Association. Now the VPA takes members who are online only because they better. Most of the media is online only, but when we first tried, we launched in 2002 AFP. We tried a couple of years into that to be members of the Press Association because, I mean, we were a full-fledged news outlet, just didn't have print. VPA said, nah, you need print. So they've been, they tried a couple of times to get us to join. We don't, if we weren't good enough then, we're not good enough now. You're basically our money's not good enough now. Um, we're still just a website. Uh, and they've taken other members again. There's plenty of other members out there that are online only. I'm cueing the scene from Animal House where uh, the Delta brothers, when they're considering Flounder as potential member, hey, we need the dues. They need the members there at the VPA. I don't think we lose anything there except for these labels of fringe media, and then what I'm getting ready to tell you about the Democrats. Uh, it's I don't know. I was asked if I was independently wealthy once when we were getting Augusta Free Press started, and it took us 20 years to make any money at this. Independently wealthy, no. We just learned how to do more with less for a long, long time. We did everything we could to keep this thing going until it actually started doing well. Not being beholden to government subsidies, which is the case of some. I was part of a email chain of publishers. I was added to this email chain of publishers a few years ago. The publishers were all complaining about how they had been print publishers, and print publishers get propped up to a decent degree by the required legal notices, like when there's a public hearing for a board of supervisors or city councilor meeting or something like that. Those end up being paid notices. Well, when you move from print to online, you lose that. And these publishers were all trying to say, hey, let's see if we can get state law changed to require that the local governments have to put their ads with us. We don't. I didn't support. I didn't ever. I mean, I was in the chain. I didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings by saying I don't think that this is good, but I kind of just stayed on and monitored and that kind of thing. We don't need those subsidies. We don't have wealthy donors who, uh, write us checks and, so we can form a nonprofit and pay our bills that way. We're doing it the old-fashioned way still. I mean, we got to find advertisers and, we've figured out advertising models that have made it so we can more than stay afloat with the decline of display advertising, which is, that's run its cycle and had years ago. Um, and so as a result of not having government subsidies or wealthy donors, really, or any local advertisers, we're not afraid to take on anybody. We don't have to kowtow to anybody. We can, I got a phone call from Mark Warner's Senate staff office earlier this year because they didn't like that we were writing critically of Warner. I like Mike Warner, but is he above being questioned? I was writing critically of Mark Warner having voted several times to confirm questionable Donald Trump nominees in the Senate. He's not Mark Warner. I love Mark Warner. I mean, I've, spent a day with him in DC. He invited me to the governor's mansion to a Christmas party. I mean, all those great things, but he's not above reproach. Um, to this day, no one in the legacy media has built on our reporting on the University of Virginia swim coach who was put on probation after admitting to emotional misconduct of swimmers at three different jobs, not at UVA, at NC State, Auburn, and in with a local YMCA team in Charlottesville. We wrote about that for a couple of months. No one else in the legacy media, no one else in Virginia media in general wrote about that. I mean, we were the ones who let. This is something that I mean, as UV, I'm an alum of UVA. UVA is not above reproach. UVA is not above being questioned. So we're pontificated down to from on high by the likes of the Virginia Press Association, by, the guy who called us fringe media and gave me that term that I'm using as a term of endearment. That, they're folks who win journalism contests, host conferences on ethics. They're not filing complaints with a local magistrate after a guy in a pickup truck with neo-Nazi insignia tries to menace a crowd of protesters at an anti-Trump rally by, blowing smoke and driving real close and real fast to a sidewalk full of protesters. No, I had to file a police complaint. The police department didn't want to do it. We brought the evidence to him. Police department didn't want to do it. I took it to the magistrate. The magistrate said, "Yeah, I'll issue an arrest warrant." Then the local Commonwealth's attorney didn't want to try the case. They didn't, the police department in Stanton and the Commonwealth's attorney in Stanton were scared of the MAGAs. I took them on. Now we lost, but I don't see anybody in the other side of the fringe media taking these people on. We do it. I'm neither a cop nor a lawyer, but we do it. The people who get paid to do those jobs don't want to do it. We'll do it. Um, the nice folks who get pats on the head for stepping up nobly to fill the void by the slow death of print newspapers aren't. They're not giving Richmond and DC Democrats hell. They're not giving Mark Warner hell, Tim Kaine hell. We did. I respect both guys. They're not giving UVA hell. I'm a UVA alum again. Um, And they're not doing the Richmond and DC Democrats aren't doing anything to help folks out here where I am. I'm based in Western Virginia, the reddest part of Virginia, one of the redder areas in the country. I think people out here are misrepresented by Republicans being given elections in acclamation kind of situations. We don't really, for years, we haven't run anybody. We being Democrats haven't run anybody out here, and then now we actually are, but they're tokens. They're not giving any help. They're running their campaigns on a shoestring by themselves, no infrastructure. And I think that, Democrats ignoring us out here is bad for those of us out here. I hate to say it. Part of me I can't blame folks who vote unilaterally Republican for doing so because Democrats don't even give them any attention. Democrats don't give us any attention out here. And it's not just come out here and say vote for me. But they don't do that either. But uh, it's coming out here and listening and amending maybe what you do a little bit to address some things that are important to us out this way. If you did that, maybe you'd get some votes in these other places, and I don't know. I guess I digress. Um, from the media standpoint, it's not important that we market ourselves as independent, nonprofit, nonpartisan. To me, the stakes are too high to pretend to be objective. Objectivity in the what's left of the mainstream media these days is getting a quote from a Democrat and a quote from a Republican and pretending that, each have equal weight. I don't see that one in this era where one side actively lies and then the other side is forced to deal with how the old saying from Mark Twain that a lie can travel across the world before the truth can put its pants on. But it's not even just about lies versus truth. I mean, what motivates me is I think it's important that this country finally, Harry S. Truman was the first to propose universal health care back in the 40s. Our country needs to join the other 32 industrialized nations that have, we're the only one, but of the 33 industrialized nations in the world, we're the only one without universal health care. We spend more money per capita on healthcare and we have worse outcomes. Universal healthcare seems to be just a given. We need to treat women, LGBTQ, certainly minorities, people with different skin color than the majority whites. Everybody needs to be treated with the civil rights need to be across the board, and everybody has the equal opportunity to succeed. And that's not just, all right, let's pretend like everybody has a chance to succeed. It's not just that the laws on the books are that way, but we have to provide equal opportunity. And that's not just pretending that laws are colorblind, but it's also um, rural areas, urban areas where the majority is minority, using our terms here, need to be given access to more resources to make it so that a rural school district in my part of the state or an urban school district in Richmond or Norfolk or wherever the case may be has the same quality schools as rich kids in Northern Virginia. There's where Democrats don't want to upset the apple cart. They don't, because people in Northern Virginia are going to look at it and say, "Hey, we have the tax base here. Why can't we use that to fund our schools the way we want to?" Well, that's fine, but it's unfair and unequal. Democrats will not attack that. They will not. I don't say attack, but attack. In the terms, attack Northern Virginia Democrats, but they will not attack the inequality. So again, I can't fault people for saying that Democrats get things wrong too. Um, as far as the situation that we're facing as a country, innocent people are being rounded up and sent to overseas gulags. Women are being denied access to basic health care. They're being denied access to fair wages that can improve either their families' lives if they're a double income family or so many single moms out there raising kids. The economy is being run on the ground as the oligarchs and their living, breathing bots in Congress do everything they can to manipulate the levers to allow the rich people to amass more for themselves at our expense. As far as I'm concerned, we'll play nice when the situation allows. That approach admittedly doesn't win us many friends, if any friends. The gatekeepers don't send out our headlines when they talk to their list. I've raised issue if the bulk of you watching this have no idea how I've been fighting this battle for the last couple of weeks. I have been given holy hell to quite a few people um, defending Augusta Free Press and the work we do. Um, Simple fact, we're on track to reach 10 million readers this year. So we're not just local yokels who do not who write for a small audience and have no impact. We have impact. We get 1 million impressions a month on Facebook. We have nearly 100,000 followers on Facebook. We put butts in seats, from my wrestling promoter days, using terms. We've made requests for one-on-one interviews with the statewide Democratic Virginia ticket. Abigail Spanberger running for governor, Ghazala Hashmi running for lieutenant governor, Jay Jones running for attorney general. We've made the request. It's been over a month now. We actually got replies like this one. Here's a quote. We are currently working to help plan Senator Hashmi's schedule for the weeks and months ahead, and we'll follow up with an update as soon as we can on whether we can fit this into the schedule. That was August 8th. I am recording this on September 10th. They have not gotten back to me. That's just, which is fine. I understand. They don't want to. They didn't intend to when they sent that note on August 8th. Um, we reached out to the other statewide Democratic candidates on this around the same time. In fact, it was a couple days before. Um, that because we got this email back. I guess we got an email back from the Spanberger campaign. I'm not sure if we heard back from the Jones campaign. I couldn't find evidence of that, and I don't remember seeing an email back from the Jones campaign. I'm not doubting that they could have, and I just don't remember. Certainly can't find it. They were all seeing if they could fit us into the schedule, though. At least two of the three were that I can verify. I'm not holding my breath. I'd love to get them one-on-one to ask lots. I did get to do an interview with one of our local House candidates, House of Delegates candidates, Gina Chrysler, and the idea that I had was I don't want to just ask questions. Oh, what's your position on this and what's your position on that? Because you get canned answers when you do that. I talked with Gina Chrysler for over an hour and just wanted to personalize her. Tell us your life story. What kind of, what motivates you to do the things you do? I mean, kind of taking the approach that supposedly Democrats think had passed them by in the last cycle, the 2024 cycle nationally, right? I mean, Democrats refused the opportunities to do interviews with the Joe Rogans of the world. The Republicans did not refuse those opportunities, and you get to know a person a certain way. Now, I can't imagine that I could get to know a Donald Trump or a Mitch McConnell or a Ben Klein, and I don't think Ben Klein could personalize himself. I imagine that guy goes to bed wearing a suit and tie, but that that I could listen to them for an hour or two and say, "Oh my God, I have so much in common with them." But I mean, a lot of people obviously did. And so that was a goal for us was to reach out and say, "Hey, let's talk to these folks. Let's personalize them." They don't want to. I'd love to get them on the record. Also, about some important things. I mean, for example, what I've been harping on here in this talk. Why don't Democrats seem to care about voters out my way? I mean, that's not an easy question for them to answer, but I'd love to get them on the record. I'd love to get them on the record. Why their campaigns only want to seem to highlight why we shouldn't vote for the Republicans. I get the emails on a regular basis, daily, sometimes multiple times a day basis. It feels like 75 or 80% of the emails I get from the Democratic candidates are here's why not to vote for the Republicans, not why to vote for us. This is something that Democrats have been getting wrong since at least 2015. When Donald Trump came down the escalator. We've been running against Donald Trump. We don't ever tell people why to vote for us. We tell them why not to vote for the other side. I'd love to, break through that window there, that ceiling, whatever. So, I mean, I get it. In addition to being a 30-year veteran of the news business, this is the job I've had professionally, outside of just the jobs you work when you're in high school and college to make money to pay for high school and college. This is the job I've had professionally since 1995. I was also for 3 years a local Democratic Party committee chair. I also ran for local office. I understand that side of things. Interviews in a campaign season are PR and official. In essence, they're unofficial free campaign spots. And if I'm in the PR folks' chairs, budgeting time for my candidates, I'm probably, looking for things that are things like sitting down with an editorial board who's just going to ask me a bunch of wonky policy questions. Sound bites on local TV. If you watch the local news, the 4, 5, 6, 10, 11, the morning news that starts at 5 a.m. You get a smiling face, you get 15 seconds, if that, of the candidate speaking, nothing of consequence said. So you either get those those wonky things that people, nerds like me, I've got a BA in American government. I mean, read, I can't, oh yeah, I'd love to parse everything they say about their position on this issue or that issue. Those things aren't going to get people in trouble. I mean, so yeah, prioritize that. You sit and talk with me, you might get in a little trouble because I'm going to ask you some hard questions. So yeah, I understand. And don't book Augusta Free Press. I get it. Life will somehow go on. I mean, I'm not the lack of access isn't something that like makes me cry over my beer, so to speak. 30 years in journalism has put me in situations where I've spent the day at the White House. Got to be in the press briefing room. That room is a lot smaller than it looks on TV. Um, I've been at the White House. I've been at a Habitat for Humanity house. I've been in the halls of Congress and a medium security prison. I've been in the mansions of millionaires and the trailer parks of undocumented immigrants. What I've learned is that everybody, no matter who they are, everybody puts their pants on one leg at a time, no matter how nice those pants are. In this business, absurd as it is to say, that makes me fringe. In case it isn't already obvious, I didn't want to do those stupid interviews anyway.